All right. All right, I think we are actually live. I just spent I just spent 6 minutes talking to the camera, and I had set myself live my uh, on my streaming software, but not in Restream, which is what actually sends it to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So now I have done that. And so this is not my first live stream. I've done live streams before, but this is the first time I'm doing on my channel, for my channel, a live stream Q&A, which is something I've been wanting to do as like a weekly thing where I answer questions that I've gotten from creators either through my newsletter or in comments. And I can also, of course, answer questions live. And so, hi Alana, how are you doing? Good to see you. And I'm excited to do this, one, because it's a way of creating more content, but I'm also excited because it gives me an opportunity to connect with people and to build a community, which is something I can do in part. In the comments I can reply to people and stuff like that, but actually getting to interact live, and even though it's not quite the same as like also having you on the other end and like seeing your face and having a conversation with you, it's still more interactive, and it's a way for people to connect with each other too through this channel. And if you subscribe to me on YouTube, or even if you don't, this channel is all about helping creators of all kinds improve their video quality, and that seems pretty broad. And I'm keeping it intentionally broad because one, I'm still kind of in the exploratory mode of figuring out specifically what I want to focus my channel on, and I'm not in a place where like I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to get really specific. So make better video content. That could include anything from knowing what kind of equipment you should use and how to use it, how to set it up, camera, lights, microphone, to editing software and editing tips. What kind of software do I recommend? Those kinds of things. But then it could also include things like what are some good habits to help you produce content consistently? What are some things that you can do to feel more comfortable and confident on camera? So like things like that. So I'm covering the spectrum, and my goal really is just to help creators. At the end of the day, I want to help creators feel like they can turn the camera on, share their knowledge, share their personality, be themselves, be comfortable, and then publish content that they feel proud of, and that is going to help them accomplish their goals. And so that's really what I'm trying to do. And so with that, I will go ahead and jump into our questions for today. So the first question I got was actually not a question, but a comment. And it said, my biggest struggle is I don't know if my videos are interesting, especially if we're going by the view count. And I thought that was a really interesting comment. Hi, Heather. I'm gonna take a moment just to say hi. Hi, Melanie. Yeah, you've only gotten comfortable with so much practice. Can't imagine what it feels like for people just starting out. By the way, I need to get Ecamm live so I can take these comments and actually show people what they say, what they're saying. Yeah, and I think it differs from person to person. When people are just starting out, they may just be starting out on camera, but they might not be starting out in terms of how they feel in front of people. So before I ever started doing video content, I had been in a band. Like I was the lead singer for a band for years. And so I was constantly in front of people and talking and telling stories, and always talking for too long. that was my big downfall, because, you know, it'd be like a 3-minute song and then 5 minutes of story and then another song. But it turns out that's great if you're doing live YouTube stuff. Um, so and you don't need to see those band videos. It's okay. No, they're out there somewhere. Um, on top of that, I also worked in the church, and so like I spoke in front of people. I was on a podcast with a buddy of mine for, I think it was like 5 years or something like that, in front of a camera, and so I got really comfortable before I started producing my own videos. And so like just starting out, it felt natural. Plus my personality, like I'm an extrovert. I tend to be outgoing. I'm a little bit of a performer. And so like those are qualities that made it really easy for me to jump on the camera and feel comfortable. Some people can have, you know, are just starting out and they have no experience whatsoever. And so, you know, like there's definitely a range. Practice is one of those things that helps, you know, and just time. But ultimately, I think it comes down to how you think about what you're doing. I'm not even answering the first question yet, because I feel like this topic is so interesting. Just well, and I guess like the second question is this idea of feeling natural talking to the camera. And so I feel like those are kind of two different things, feeling comfortable and feeling natural. So let me cover the feeling comfortable part first. So the more I think about and believe in the value that I have to offer people, and the more I realize that my showing up is the thing that makes it possible for the value that I want to provide to actually get to those people, the more I think about how they're going to experience that and how they're going to apply that. Like when I start thinking about those things and start externalizing, like I'm not making it about myself and how I feel in front of the camera. And it's not about ignoring that either, you know, like, but in addition to thinking about this dynamic, I'm thinking about what this content is doing after I'm done making it, for somebody who might be watching this video 5 years later and just starting out. And I feel like that mental trick and kind of practicing thinking that way consistently, it gradually starts to take the focus, it shifts your focus away from yourself. And the less you're looking at yourself, the less self-conscious you're going to be naturally. So that's on the comfort side. And then when it comes to feeling natural, this was really interesting. So I was actually watching Heather's live stream. You should definitely check out her channel if you're someone who is trying to grow on YouTube. She's fantastic. And one of the people who was commenting on the stream, I subscribed to his channel last week because we have this weekly. She does these weekly live kind of YouTube mastermind check-in things. And I was looking through his channel content, and he produces lots of content, but he made the comment in the chat that he keeps his videos short because he doesn't feel natural on camera, that he's reading from a teleprompter. So I actually personally read from a teleprompter for like 90% of my videos. And I can recognize, like, because I know myself, I can recognize the difference. Like, it's really clear to me the difference between when I'm scripted and when I'm just speaking off the cuff, like what I'm doing during this, you know, like there's no teleprompter here. It's just me and the camera. Well, me and you folks, you lovely folks. They're definitely more, and I'm trying to fix this too. So like when I'm off the cuff, there are a lot more filler words. There's a lot more silence. There are more pauses. There's more rambling. I tend to talk in circles. But I also I do seem a little bit more myself, whatever that means. And the one thing that's helped me translate that to my scripted videos is that I have a lot of practice doing podcasts and having those long form, like you're sitting there talking on a microphone, you're not reading from a script, you're kind of responding in real time or thinking out loud, so you get to hear yourself speak a certain way. I think for a lot of people, like during the pandemic especially, you you can go for long periods of time without like talking to anybody. And this would actually happen to me because like I haven't been podcasting. I've only been doing my scripted videos, and I record them once a week. And besides like a few words with my kids and a few words with my spouse, like during the day, like I go for hours and I don't say a word. And then, like I turn on the camera and my voice is creaking and cracking. And I'm like, how do I even use this thing? Um, and so I don't know, like I wonder if that's part of what's playing into it is this dynamic of like, we don't, we don't hear ourselves kind of be expressive and talk in the way that you would for a YouTube video. And when you don't hear it, you have nothing to emulate except like what you see in media. So if you're looking at traditional media, you're thinking about like news reports and stuff like that. And when those people read from scripts, they sound very formal, and it's, so like that's what I notice the most. I notice when people are reading from scripts, they are really just emulating as best they can what seems like the way you're supposed to speak when you're talking to a camera. And you can tell somebody all day long, oh, when you're talking to a camera, just pretend that you're talking to another person. But unless they can hear themselves speak naturally enough to emulate that, they don't have a reference to work from in order to deliver naturally on camera. And so I feel like finding some way, whether that's through a podcast or, just even sitting down with the recording app on your phone on any given topic and just like, okay, for the next 30 minutes or the next 45 minutes, I'm just going to talk about this. And then, like listen back to that and hear the way that you speak when you're speaking naturally. And then that gives you a reference point for when you're actually speaking to a camera, even if you're reading from a script. So I hope that helps. Again, this live video stuff, like if I was, I feel like great stuff comes out, but it's also like very unstructured, and so that's one of the things. It's like I feel like I wish I was a little bit more natural with my scripted stuff, and I wish my unscripted stuff was just a little bit more structured, and they could, eventually like meet in the middle. So I'm still on that journey too. All right, so back to the first question. My biggest struggle is I don't know if my videos are interesting, especially if we're going by the view count. So first of all, don't go by the view count. Like when you're just starting out, the view count it's just not a reliable measure for whether or not something is interesting. Because the view count in the beginning has so much to do with whether or not those videos are actually getting in front of people in the first place. So I think the first thing you need to, and this is, I think, a good thing to address too, or a good question to answer is, do I feel like I'm interesting? Because a lot of people don't. And this is something that I've struggled with. Like, I think a lot of creators do. It's like, well, like, whether it's doing a vlog or, talking about something that you are interested in, or that you are knowledgeable about, is that like, this is interesting to me. Like, this is my life. I find it interesting, but would other people find it interesting? And I think the answer to that question is always yes. I think if you can find the right people, your life, your story, your knowledge, your personality, the way that you present things is interesting. It may not be interesting to everybody, but it is interesting to somebody's. And the goal is really to find those somebodies. And so until you find those somebodies, it's really hard to measure. Like, as far as the data that YouTube gives you, it's hard to measure whether or not your videos are interesting. But there are some things that you can do to make them more interesting. I think, being more of yourself, telling personal stories, focusing your video content, like the theme of one video, focusing the theme of one video on a single thing rather than, like an overarching thing. So I think there are some things that you can definitely do to make your videos more interesting, but it's just hard to know whether or not, in the beginning, whether or not people are actually finding your videos interesting or not, just based on the view count. So, all right, I'm backpedaling a little bit here, and I'm going to be honest. As I was answering that question, I started kind of second guessing myself, because I feel like there's something there that is useful, and I don't have enough of a grasp on it to be able to articulate it live. But I could sit down and find the answer and kind of work out my theory on paper, and then I can revisit that. So I made a poor attempt at answering that question. I'm just going to be honest. But I know that there is a satisfying answer, and I'm going to work on that and bring it back to you. All right? So, all right. That happens sometimes. So then this is the last question. Actually, before I get to the last question, I'm going to go ahead and check out some of these comments. And Heather, I appreciate that you say that you liked my answer, and I feel like the half of an answer that I gave is good. It's good so far. It's aspiring to be an answer, but it's like not quite there yet. So I'm a little bit critical. I want to give more. I want to give something definitive, but yeah, putting in the reps. This is from Heather. Putting in the reps with long form content definitely helps with feeling natural on camera. Yeah, I mean, that's, just what I was talking about. Like, you sit down for 30 to 45 minutes or an hour just talking, and you practice that enough, even if you're not being intentional, like even if you're not watching back and looking for, your filler words and trying to improve the structure of your speaking, you're just naturally going to improve. So I feel like you combine putting in those reps with like actually sitting down and looking for just like one thing, like, okay, what's one thing you can improve? So like for this stream, for example, One thing I could improve is maybe working from an outline instead of just trying to answer these questions off the cuff. So I'm going to work on that next time. Melanie, small world. It's your husband who did that Procreate thumbnail tutorial and convinced me to buy the M1 Mac Mini. That's awesome. Yeah, Tom, I think Tom was definitely one of the reasons I pushed for getting an M1 Mac. And so I have the M1 MacBook Pro, and I just love it. So I had a 2015 iMac before 5K display. It was great, and it was working well for me, a little bit laggy from time to time. And but I had to stay put. If I was working, it was always on that computer in this spot, because this is where I normally had it set up. And so actually being able to take my laptop downstairs and put some headphones on and edit videos while the kids are just running around in the background, I love it. I love it. So it's really amazing. It's and it's not it was definitely an upgrade in terms of how well it handles the programs and stuff. Everything's faster and smoother. So, all right. You might hear kid noise in the background, just so you know. A kid might barge into the door at any moment. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into this last question now. I feel like I'm making content just to be making content. Okay, so that was a statement, not a question. But I think the question inside that comment is why just make content? And one of the things that I've struggled with for a long time is kind of this I'm interested in so many different things, and I have a lot of different ideas, and so I had this kind of paralysis where I didn't want to move forward with any one thing because I couldn't do all of the things. And I felt well, if I just focus on, I had a podcast with my wife Rachel, and we talked about family relationships and raising kids as creatives. I loved doing that. But I was well, so if I focus on that, then I'm leaving this other stuff on the table that I might want to talk about. I'm kind of interested in fitness. I actually bought a domain because I thought I might start a fitness brand called Old Beast Fitness. So I don't know, something like that. I don't know, I have purchased so many domains. So what does that have to do with content? Well, there's this kind of feeling of if I start making content about this one thing, I'm committing to that, and then I'm leaving all of this other stuff on the table, and if I do this, I can't do that. And I was just stuck there for a long time. And so instead of doing anything at all, which would have been better than nothing, I just kind of shut down. I would get that paralysis, and I would be well, I guess I can't make content right now. And so one of the things I've realized is that when you're creating content, even if, and my YouTube channel is definitely a lot more focused now than it has been. You could look back and I've got time-lapse graphic illustrations, time-lapse hand lettering stuff. I've got music, songs that I've written that I've shared. I've got some of the podcast stuff that I did with Rachel. I did vlogging. I've done all kinds of different stuff with this channel, But as soon as I started to feel like, oh, that I might be committing to something and then like this is going to be it and I won't be able to do anything else, I would just stop. And I feel like that has cost me. When I think about all of those, you know, spaces of time where I wasn't creating anything, I feel regret. I feel like that is missed opportunity. And so I think that making content just to be making content, it was, you know, it was framed as a negative thing in this comment, but I think it's actually a good thing. I think that the practice of making content consistently, even if it's not all on the same theme and it doesn't feel like it has a direction, the practice of that, getting yourself into the rhythm of making content, it's so valuable. And like, I mean, you get so many things out of it. You learn what kind of content people respond to. And so like that might be one of the ways that you learn what it is you do want to focus your time and energy on. You get more comfortable with your tools, you get faster in your process, you you feel more comfortable speaking to the camera, you improve the quality of what you're producing, you know, week to week. And so like if you if it's only about focusing your content enough on a single topic so that you can grow, I think you're missing so many other upsides that come with just making content in the first place. And so my encouragement to anybody who is kind of, you know, there in that space where I have been a lot, where it's like, well, I don't know what to make content about. And I don't know, like, should I make videos just to be making videos? Absolutely. Yes, do it. Get consistent. Like, there is nothing, I think for you, like, you're either going to spend the same amount of time being paralyzed and not producing anything, or you're going to spend the same amount of time producing content until you find that thing that really resonates. And so like until you find that thing that really resonates, like you either have no growth or you have this, you know, week to week rhythm that you've created for yourself, and you've become a better YouTuber, you become a better editor, you become, I mean, you've, so anyways, not to beat a dead horse, but yes, make content just to make content. Do that, please. And like, what's also true is it's not content just to make content. Like, your first video out of the gate might be the thing that some other person needs to watch to help them with something, to show them that they're not alone, or that somebody else's story is similar to theirs, or that answers a question for them. Like, it just takes one piece of content to do that. So yes, make content. All right. So this is kind of a short one today. I got a little bit of a late start because I don't know if you caught this in the beginning, but I spent like 6 minutes talking to the camera before I actually turned my stream on. But what I want to do with this time is I've got, you know, I've got several questions that I can go over, but I also want to be able to interact with folks in the live chat. And so if you're watching this now, or if you're watching it later and you can leave a comment, I would love to hear from you, to know what are some questions that you have, what are some struggles that you have when it comes to making video content, when it comes to producing, what is you know, keeping you stuck. And I also want to know what kind of video content do you produce? What are you excited about? What are you passionate about? Share that too, because I want the people who are commenting, who are watching this live, to be able to connect with other creators And I feel like this is a place where that can happen. So tell me something that you're struggling with or that you need help with or a question that you have. And then also tell me what you do and, like share what you're passionate about. So anyways, that's going to do it for this live stream. I'm excited that we got the first one, even though this was short. But I'm looking forward to doing this again. It's going to be 4:30 p.m. Central Time every Friday, except for the Fridays that I don't do it. No, okay, but I'm gonna say that most, like almost all Fridays. Um, Gosh, I'm not good at landing the plane, but this is good. This like I'm only going to, it's only going to get better from here. I'm gonna eventually figure out the Ecamm Live stuff, which I've heard is awesome. I need to check that out. Maybe get some music in here, maybe a soundboard, some other like visual stuff. We'll make it awesome. Each, like keep checking in, but like a year from now, this might be a whole thing. So, all right, that's enough from me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you being here, and we will see you